So about this time of year, I think that if I hear the phrase "have a heart" again, I'm going to run screaming from the room. But I hope you haven't gotten to that point yet, because we have been told that maybe we don't talk about have a heart enough, but that there's things about have a heart that people don't, newcomers particularly, don't really get, or that it's new to them, or people need they just have questions. So today we're going to talk about why, have a heart's coming up, but why is it a big deal, and why do we hope that you will attend? So first of all, I want to make clear that what the Service and Outreach Group, who is putting on this show, Have a Heart, every year since 2011, this is not the first. Have a Heart, the people on Service and Outreach Committee did not invent Service and Outreach at Epiphany. It has been going on for years and years and years. And this is just what I could find in the archives, giving some history of that. And you'll notice that all this, over here it says, unclutter closets and cupboards, trinkets and treasures, needs quality donations. All proceeds go to charities. One of the many ways Epiphany Episcopal Church serves the community. That's that little text I'm reading right there. So trinkets and treasures and other things that the church women of Epiphany were doing. It's the church women of Epiphany were running Trinkets and Treasures. They did a lot of the fundraising, and this budget for the women of Epiphany for 1968, I'd like to point out that their expenditures and their outlays for these organizations are grouped by parish, community, the diocese, the nation, and the world. And you're going to see how what we're doing today is just like, it's carrying the ball forward, right? And I'd like to point out, let's see, to carry out all the allocation mandate, the committee, to carry out the allocations of these funds, of where the proceeds go. This was from a report, Volunteering at Trinkets and Treasures, 1986. Many of you will recognize the name of Laurel Nesholm. And one of the people on the committee who was supposed to carry out the allocation, it was headed up by Barbie Crutcher. So thank you all, people who've been before us. And I would just like to read some of the things that the in-parish stuff, they funded the discretionary fund, the music program, the refugee assistance. Out of the parish, they provided funding for Seattle Emergency Housing, the Caroline Downs Family Medical Center, Downtown Human Services Council, Northwest Second Harvest, Seattle Day Nursery, Senior Rights Assistance, Capitol Hill Volunteer Fund, First Avenue Service Center, the Union Gospel Mission, New Beginnings, I don't know what that was, the Shelter, Attica, Council for Prevention of Child Abuse and Neglect, Friends of the Jailed, Hospice of Seattle, Parkview Home, and Amigos de las Americas. So I think that's kind of remarkable that what we're doing today is still a reflection of the breadth of that outreach that was being done decades ago. So we're going to give you a preview of the Have a Heart program video. Oh, thank you. The preview of the Have a Heart program video, and it will highlight how 4 of these local organizations that we currently support are doing this very same work. So this is a video. Frank Lawler put this together, and it's you get a preview, a sneak peek.
Epiphany's Service and Outreach Committee lives out our care for our neighbors in many ways, including raising money to support nonprofit organizations with whom we partner locally and internationally. For 2025, our annual Have a Heart fundraiser highlights local efforts in assisting women and girls experiencing homelessness.
My journey with Team Feed actually began when I used to be a guest. Many years ago, I used to rely on Team Feed services in order to get food every night, as well as bus tickets and that kind of stuff. I took a Salesforce training program, and from there I was able to get an internship, which then turned into a position.
Volunteers make up the nurturing and caring side of the Team Feed family, really embracing radical compassion and meeting our guests in whatever way our guests need our volunteers to show up for them for that day.
I think Team Feed is different because we really strive to offer a community of support. I think that's one of the biggest things within the low-income and homeless community is having that support. Because I remember when I was a guest, one of the biggest things was not having people around me in order to find assistance and find people to talk to. So I really think that's one of the systems. Team Feed doesn't have just one description of success. I feel like they find out which individual guest's definition of success is and then helps find a path to that. My definition of success was being self-sufficient and not having to rely on as many other people anymore and having my own ability to make choices and provide for myself.
Until I was homeless, I didn't comprehend how much energy and strength it takes to just be homeless, to survive every day. Even just being able to come in for a night is part of a healing process to get away from that life for a minute.
My name is LaShonda Irvis, and I work at Donna Jeans. I'm one of the overnight staff that oversees the program. I stay up all night so they can sleep peacefully.
We have accepted our place in this mission, which is getting people through the night. My name is Tonette Winston. I am the Director of Housing, Shelter, and Dispatch for Operation Nightwatch.
It's not a soup kitchen, it's a community.
They are our past, and we can give them a future.
Nightwatch is a vehicle for the entire community to work together to express love. We're literally on a daily basis saving lives and changing lives because we're finding different ways to just reflect light onto the path of the people who are in great darkness right now.
So to our donors, thank you for giving 24 people, senior citizens, that light.
You know, I've tasted the fire, and many of the staff here have tasted the fire, you know, so they understand, so they meet people where they are.
Yeah, just a little belief and help is a beautiful thing.
I'd like to give you a brief overview this evening of how Epiphany Parish helps out at the YWCA with its programs, both by your volunteer time and your donations. We basically help in 4 ways. Ann Beck and her team clean YWCA apartments between tenants. They not only clean them, but they spruce them up and try to make them personal. They do a lot of this from donations of gently used and new items from parishioners. The East Cherry Food Bank is another area that we are involved in. East Cherry serves 350 households per week, and we do a lot for them. We supply fresh produce donations to the Hunger Basket. So when you walk by the hunger basket, you might want to put in a donation and think about how you're putting fresh produce on people's tables. The third area we participate in is seasonal food drives. We provide backpacks for children during the summer so they're ready for school and fall. We provide the means to procure Thanksgiving meals, and we also help out at Christmas. And finally, we help out with the Angelin's Day Center. Angelin's is a safe haven for homeless women. They serve over 200 women per day and also offer a night shelter. Our philosophy for giving to the YWCA is very specific. We recognize that they have large donors for their large projects, such as providing housing. So we try to target our services and donations to areas that would otherwise be unmet. Thank you so much for coming.
Not everybody's a bad person being out on the street or homeless. We all have our stories.
If you're living outside, every night you have to wonder where you're going to sleep tonight. And so you might spend all day on that, or all day just on trying to figure out how you're going to eat.
I lost a lot of morals and values out there in the streets, and it's very hard for a woman. It's a lot of sexual harassment. It's ugly.
I became homeless and lived in my car with my kids. I had a Ford pickup, an old truck, and so we lived in our truck.
The only reason I wasn't bothered by the rats was because the dog kept them out of the tent. My tent was about 3 feet up off the ground at all times, and all my food was kept up high. You know, so and the baby he didn't crawl at that time.
There's a huge benefit for any woman being taken out of that situation and kind of pushing themselves out of that situation. Not only do they have a community of women who can support them and be there for them and kind of be their backbone, you know, they have the support even from the men in the village.
If you're to be sleeping downtown in the like walkways or alleyways, whatever, you know, under the bridge, anybody can grab you at any time. But if you have a locking door, then in a little place where you can go, and it's got all the little essentials you need, that's all. You know what? It's going to give you a lot more room to grow, rather than being under that bridge, hoping and praying somebody doesn't grab you.
See the red door to my tiny house? It stands there so tall and proud. I can leave here on a floating cloud. It has its own lock and key, don't you see? I can leave my treasures behind it ever so safely. Now when I come home at night, I can rest easy. No more restless nights due to fright. I am safe and sound behind my red door. When I turn around, I hit the lock, sit on the floor without even a sound, and thank God for my proud red door.
Your generous giving at the Have a Heart fundraiser also provides small grants to selected charitable organizations nominated by parishioners. Here are 2 grant recipients serving underhoused women in the Seattle area. Elizabeth Gregory Home serves homeless and at-risk women with a day center, a transitional housing program, and case management services. The Refugee Artisan Initiative supports refugee and immigrant women as they work to achieve economic stability. Please be generous in giving to service and outreach at Epiphany. And remember, although this year we are highlighting local efforts assisting unhoused women in this video, the Have a Heart fundraiser supports all of our service and outreach projects, helping men and women here in Seattle and around the world. Thank you for joining us for Have a Heart 2025.
Thank you. Now, I am going to talk briefly, run through and describe how Epiphany supports some of these organizations, specifically a lot of it through our volunteer work, but as well as financially. So I think Ann Beck, you can see from this photograph, this is from the 80s, I believe, or the 90s. I can't remember. Anyway, we've been doing this for a long time, and Ann has been the one who's, you know, every Thursday, every fourth Thursday, except for November and December, Ann has led this crew, the Teen Feed crew. And so many of you go to the, you know, are doing Teen Feed. There's Wendy and Tom Holford and George, the Robinsons. Is that Lindsay or Lindsay Liouts, Adrian Arnold, Christina, Ann, and there's too many people here. But anyway, but we've also, since in 2011, when we started having to raise, we started raising more money, we were able to help them buy a van, and that was in the early. And then this just, I think in 2022, we helped them buy another vehicle, because a lot of the Teen Feed program work is in, like, it's in Auburn, or, you know, they need these vehicles for their outreach work. And they do more than just feed the young people at UCC Church. They help them find a job, get an ID, learn some skills, and get off the street. So behind the scenes, you know, the feeding is very important, as the video demonstrated, but they also do other stuff that we provide financial support for. And one thing I want to mention about the YWCA, Sherilyn talked about how we are connected, but I just want to point out that the YWCA is our closest neighbor. They're right over there on East Cherry, just east of MLK, and that branch was founded as the YWCA Culture Club, and that was still in our neighborhood at 24th and Howell, and it was one of the few places in Seattle where the African American community could congregate. The present location they moved to in 1947, and this new structure went up in 1951, and this is the laying of the cornerstone of it. The offices for the transitional housing and domestic violence support are housed there. And behind this building is the food bank. So many people at Epiphany, you know, you contribute to the Hunger Basket. Last year, they were, or maybe it was in 23, I think in the fall of in 2023, the food bank opened to walk-in service. It had been closed since the pandemic. And during the pandemic, we were delivering food to over 300 households every Wednesday. So here's Bethany and Lydia Miller. And I think that's one of the sons. Anyway, they're loading up to go. This is a few summers ago. Mary Henry fills in for Jenny and Richard when they can't deliver. Jill Marsden and Ross Bond. Here's the food bank here. These rolling racks are some things that Epiphany helped to upgrade, and you know, now they have covers so that when the drivers were picking up the sacks, they can stay covered in the rain. So last year we were able to give them enough money for the big commercial refrigerator that you saw in the video, but they had some money left over, and so they spent it fixing up some things that made their volunteer lives easier. So Linda let me know this week that 25 years ago, Charlie Bush heard about Operation Nightwatch. He was invited to a men's prayer breakfast downtown. And that began Charlie Bush's involvement with Nightwatch. He and Linda went on the board of Nightwatch. I'm not quite sure. Those was probably in the 90s. And then Mike Evans was on the Nightwatch board. And then Frank Lawler is presently on the Nightwatch board, and he has been joined by Michael Frost. So there's been a long connection with Operation Nightwatch and Epiphany. One of those important connections was in the years before COVID, when the men of Epiphany would host 8 men, carefully screened by Operation Nightwatch, who would come to Epiphany and have a safe, clean, quiet place for shelter. And we would provide, you know, toiletries and stuff. Linda would sort of see that the canteen was taken care of. But COVID, of course, shut that down, and they've since changed the way that Nightwatch, the whole city's changed the way it does shelter. So we're no longer able to provide that service. But along about the time of COVID, we were asked if we could start preparing meals for the dispatch center, because what happens, the people come to the dispatch center in the evening, they're fed a hot meal, and then as shelter space is available, they sort of like win a lottery ticket and they're sent out to the different shelters that are available in the city. So we, on the 3rd Saturday, every other month, again, Ann puts together a team of people who go down and prepare a meal on that Saturday night. This is Sarah during COVID when we were packaging up meals to go. And this is one of the delicious meals that Laurel Shearer often prepares for Nightwatch. This was beef burgundy. Can you imagine? So we have to thank, we're so grateful for everyone's volunteer work, but especially for Laurel's culinary skills. One of the things that happened during COVID is Epiphany started making sandwiches. It was one of the few meals that we could provide during COVID. And Nightwatch asked us to continue that, because what they do is they'll use sandwiches, like if somebody comes in at, you know, midnight after the meal service is closed, they have sandwiches ready. Or if they go to visit a tent city and they want to have it like it's like a little icebreaker. Hey, you hungry? You want a sandwich? So the sandwich ministry that Terry Carlisle heads up, and Wendy and her mom, I've never been able to pronounce Wendy's last name. Oh, here they are. Hey, hey. Okay, how do you pronounce your name? Kaiser. Oh, okay. Well, here they are. Have a fun. So I just want to talk about not being able to see the trees. Okay, so anyway, it's a valuable service. Karen. Yeah, we were there last night. Oh, okay, last night. Okay, do you know how many people were there? How many?
They typically serve 150 people. That's what they ask us to bring food for. We send 20 meals out to Angeline House, and then we serve 130 meals at the location. And last night we had a lot of sandwiches that we let everybody, and it was cold. It was really, really busy last night. People were coming in, and we were sending them out with a really, really good meal. They all love the stuff we serve because it's different and it's tasty. And so we went French last night with cassoulet, thanks to Laurel. And we allowed them to take sandwiches last night, and that everybody who went through took sandwiches, because one guy, we heard him say that this was the first meal he'd eaten in 24 hours. And kind of to follow up with a little bit of the earlier part we were talking about, our focus on women, the thing I'm noticing, especially at Nightwatch, is we are seeing a lot more women. That was something a couple years ago you just didn't see as much. And last night was probably the most women on the street that I've seen in a really long time. And we need to think about that.
Thank you, Ann. Okay, so remember, 3rd Saturday, odd-numbered months, January, March, May, is it May? Yeah. So anyway, etc. Contact Ann, please. Okay, you heard the video mention Donna Jean's place. Well, right now, Donna Jean's place is operating at, I think it's St. Mary's. They have some extra space that they're using, but it's not a very adequate space. So in partnership with St. Mark's, who owns the old St. Nicholas School building right north of their campus there at St. Mark's, they're going to renovate one of these old Gage Academy studios and make it a place where I think, how many women? 20 women will be able to stay there and every night. It's not like these women will have to go to a different shelter every night. They will be able to stay at one shelter. They'll have lockers where they can leave their belongings so that during the day they don't have to schlep everything around. They will have showers, laundry facilities. They will have case management care. And they will have, I think they'll have the medical clinic care will also be starting. This renovation is expected, I mean, this is Glenn, he's a board member, and he's really knows a whole lot about real estate development. So, and there's various members of the, Greater Seattle Church councils, the Catholic diocese was there, and here's Dean Thompson, and anyway, it's a beautiful space, well lit, and it's just wonderful. And Donna Jean this is Donna Jean. She was the wife of Bud Palmberg, who started Nightwatch back in the, I don't know, 60s. And this is Tonette, you saw in the video. She's we often see her down there at the Nightwatch Dispatch Center when we're making a meal. And also St. Mark's, the people at St. Mark's, for years they've been hosting a women's shelter at Blodell Hall. So they have a whole group of people ready to, jump in and provide a lot of just community support for the women who will be staying there. They're expected to transition through roughly, 100 women a year. And again, the case management will help them. Once they get stable housing, they will help them keep stable housing, because many people, when they're just living hard on the streets, they're not ready. They don't, they're suffering from, PTSD. They're not ready to take on the normal duties and responsibilities of just, keeping a household together. So the idea is that this place will give extra attention and help to ensure that when the people do get suitable housing, that they'll be able to keep it. They'll be able to manage. They'll have healed from the trauma of living in fear on the streets. And this renovation is expected to be $150,000. And as part of a kind of a matching fund pool, Epiphany was able to give $20,000 toward that. So to date, they've raised, at least the last number I saw on the website was this number, $47,635, and $20,000 of that was from Epiphany that we were able to give in October because y'all were so generous at Have a Heart last year. We still had some reserves, so thank you. That's going to be a really wonderful opportunity. It was on the Nightwatch website, yeah. So, yeah.
Unofficially, I can tell you we are halfway there now. I think Epiphany's very generous donation encouraged a lot of other people. It's like, wow, the Episcopalians are giving that? We better kick in too. So. So we're at the halfway mark.
Great, wonderful update.
For that particular, you can trigger directly to tonight. Yes, actually, we're about to start. I don't want to hijack this, but we're about to start a separate fundraising campaign at Nightwatch just for this new shelter.
Yeah.
Well, not that. No, it's not that.
So yeah. So the tiny homes, the video talked about the importance of what a lockable, safe place was for women. And those tiny homes, the tiny home villages are managed by the Low Income Housing Institute, LIHI, L-I-H-I, if you ever see that acronym. That's the organization that runs the tiny home villages. And in the tiny home villages, they also receive that sort of social network support and community building skills that, you know, the women will receive at Donna Jean's place. And that step is so critical in the successful transition to permanent housing. So the community of a tiny home village is so important. And those little homes are built for Lehigh by Sound Foundations Northwest. The material costs is about $4,500 per home, but all the labor is volunteer. And since I think Reverend Ruth Ann Garcia, when she was here, organized the first volunteer group to work down at Sound Foundations in the 20 something, I can't remember. And since that time, it's just become a hugely popular volunteer effort. Terry Gudger there probably has her own nail gun down there. She's, here's a group putting together a house. Pete Moline is one of, he loves this, and so he's one of the supervisors down there, and he does it a couple of times a week, I think. You can't see this video, you can't, but anyway, if you're wondering what a tiny little home looks like, this is what it looks like inside a finished home. And last year, Ann and Steve Faust contributed the materials cost for a home. Oh, here's the key. Here's the key taped to the window, and they named their homes. They were kind of could pick out a name, and so Steve chose Samaritan's Inn, and Alice chose Epiphany Inn, and I would be not doing my fiduciary duty, or however you pronounce that word, if I did not mention that Alice has offered to match contributions from the well, specifically from the women's retreat group, the women's group of Epiphany, but she'll match donations up to $4,500 for Sound Foundations at Have a Heart. So thank you, Alice. I'll just kind of knock through these last ones. It's not that these organizations aren't dearly important to me, but there's just so much to say about them that we'd be here all day. What I invite you to do regarding Nicholas Fund for Education is to look at last Friday's Service and Outreach newsletter. There's a link in there that will throw you to the Epiphany blog, or you can just go to the website and look at the Epiphany blog. But in November, Ann Beck, Amanda, and I went down to Guatemala to attend the graduation ceremony for Nicholas Christian School, which were held for the first time at the new campus. And that says Ivan España. He's this visionary leader. He's the Doit Khan of local Nicholas Fund. He's the Guatemalan director of Nicholas Fund, the local director. And as always, he at the end of the graduation week, he puts on a special barbecue for the teachers and staff. So here's Juanita is the head cook, Maria's her assistant. Here, Ann and Amanda, and they're wearing the Epiphany is Here aprons, which Juanita wears all the time. She loves them. We brought down a whole bunch more for her. And I just have to shout out this gentleman here, because he is from our prior days of visiting Guatemala. Groups from Epiphany have been going down to Guatemala since 2005. So we have a long relationship with the folks there, and here's this man who was, when we were staying at the old crappy, horrible place, the lodging that we called the Waldorf, he was a night watchman. And so when Mike would bring out his guitar, he would come and listen to the music with us. And so Andres, and lo and behold, his son is graduating from Nicholas Christian School. And so here's Margaret Peterson was also able to go with us. Many of you will remember Margaret Peterson. And here we are all tricked up in our Ishiel skirts and blouses that the teachers wanted to dress us in. And we couldn't say no because they wanted to do it so badly. And I guess we didn't look too ridiculous. So, but I back to that point of being in relationship. You know, it's hard for me to explain how going down to Guatemala, just a few times really, overall, in the years from Margaret and Mike and I made our actual first trip in 2005, and we decided that we were going to partner with the Agros Foundation to work with the little village of Belén. So here we are, our first group visit in February of 2006 when we signed the agreement with Agros and Belén. And we still have this banner somewhere. It's down in the storeroom. So from 2006 to 2011, we would go down multiple times of the year. And it's just, I can't explain why these people still seem so close to us. Or that why it's so meaningful that we can still help the young people of this area get an education. So that's why we give to Nicholas Fund for Education. Our money supports scholarships so that the young people from these very, very poor villages still can get a secondary education. Haiti Micah, many of you remember that Father Constant came and spoke a couple of years ago. He founded Haiti Micah not long after the really bad earthquake because there were so many children just left without parents. He and his mother started an orphanage in the town of Mirabaila. And in addition to the children living in the group home, whom they feed and educate and provide loving support to, they also have a community feeding program that when, given enough money and enough tranquility and law, there's not chaos going on in the streets, they were feeding up to 400 people every day. 400 children, and that's, for many of those children, that was their only meal of the day. So when we give money to Haiti Micah, it goes toward supporting these children in the home and feeding the kids on the street. And we asked Father Constant a few years ago, what did Epiphany support mean? And he says, it means that children don't die, that these children have a place to go and they're not exploited, they're not killed, they're not starving. And the Haiti Micah also encourages, as the children grow up, they try to secure them education. This young woman is Elsie. She's going off to nursing school in the Dominican Republic. So they nurture these young people through young adulthood and try to secure as much as they can higher education and job training. And finally, well, not finally, there's a few more. I gotta get going. Okay, I am on the board, as Mike Evans was before me, on the board of American Friends of the Episcopal Diocese of Jerusalem. There's so much to be said about this organization right now, especially since the ceasefire has been announced. But I'll just say in here that the Archbishop, who's this gentleman here, he is the Archbishop of the the Episcopal Diocese of Jerusalem, meaning he's part of that Anglican communion that Epiphany is part of because we're Episcopalians. In addition to the parishes, owns and operates things like the hospitals, schools, and centers for the disabled. One of the ones in East Jerusalem is the Jerusalem Princess Basma Center, which deals with provides rehabilitation support for children with disabilities. And mainly, they're teaching their mothers and their parents how to provide therapy at home. It has a wonderful record of doing that. One of the things, Violet Mubarak is the general director of Princess Basma. Just before the outbreak of the war, she and Suhaila Tarazi is the general director of Ali Arab Hospital in Gaza. This is just right after the start of the outbreak of the war. But they had just opened up a satellite rehabilitation center at Ali Hospital so that they could provide support for the disabled children who could not leave Gaza. So right before the war, they had established the remote clinics there. They're still continuing them, although this young woman is at a center that was in South Gaza. They've had to move many times as that area has been also destroyed. So I ask for your prayers as this peace, let's hope that it holds and that the Middle East never goes through this trauma again. But just please pray for that. The next newsletter will come out on the second Friday of February, and I hope to have an update about the latest, what's going on relative to the work of the Diocese of Jerusalem's various institutions, because all of them have suffered in the war. There's terrible unemployment. People are afraid to leave their homes. Tourism, of course, dried up, so that lost a lot of income. So everybody is suffering. It's not just those in Gaza, and it's, of course, just not just the Palestinians either. So stay tuned, please. In addition, these are the organizations that we just talked about are sort of our long-term friends that we've had a relationship with these organizations for a long time. But at the end of the, as funds are available and as circumstances require or seem to call for, we are able to also fund other organizations that are also, doing this sort of work in the world. Last year, we were able to give to the Diocese of Olympia's Refugee Resettlement Office. We gave, I think it was $15,000 in support of emergency rent assistance so that families would not be, be evicted. We gave $5,000 to Backpack Brigade, which don't confuse it with school backpack supplies. It's a totally separate thing that provides ready-to-eat, easy-to-eat meals for school children over the weekend and school holidays. And then finally, we were able to give money to Episcopal Relief and Development. I think this past year we also earmarked that for Ukrainian emergency relief. And then the video did mention the parishioner grants. So this past year, in past years, we've helped build, a school and a library in Kenya. The Elizabeth Gregory Home provides the day center again for women. It's sort of like Angeline's, really. It's very similar to what Angeline does. A few years ago, Ed Emerson secured a grant for the Refugee Artisan Initiative and bought some industrial sewing machines for their textile production, products production. And then this past year, Tamara Phillip asked for $2,500 for an organization that works with literacy in providing libraries and books in Nicaragua. This St. Luke's Ballard development, the St. Luke's Ballard is going to redevelop their church property to provide affordable housing. So Bobby Spaeth asked for some money for that. So this is what, if we have extra money, or if we, if we feel like we can not neglect other organizations, we are happy to provide these parishioner grants that you nominate. And finally, I can't talk about outreach without mentioning all the fabulous people who volunteer every month at Ronald McDonald House. And Audrey Steele organized this a couple of years ago, or last year, or the year before. And various teams go every month, once a month. There's a date announced. So that's another thing you could do if you had an extra. And it's really fun. I've been before, and it's the best way to meet people and get involved with people and make friendships is actually to work with them. And so try it. Okay, now I hope that has given you an understanding of why we have a Heart every year and why we think it's a big deal. But I will say that Have a Heart remains one heck of a party. And so you please come, please bring a friend. The food will be terrific. Wendy and Ann McCurdy have put together a bunch of really fun things to bid on. The parishioners have donated auction items that you can do fun things like go on a sailboat and drink wine and that sort of thing. So, what? Experiences. Yeah, you don't have to bring anything home to find a place to store it. You have a good time and then you can just let it go. So, come prepared to bid. All right, you heard it. I didn't say it. You heard it from somebody else. I think it was well, we rolled out the door over 200,000, 204,000. Go ahead.
We could easily expense twice that much. Is it still possible to make donations, or how do we know about this donation?
Okay, well, you can go on the website. There's the Q code, and then you can, like at Have a Heart, there'll be, listen, people will be running up to you saying, "Do you want to give us some money?" So, there won't be any impediment. She means of the auction. Oh, for the auction. Oh. You can talk to me. Yeah. Talk to him. Yeah. And I think we're going to try to get the list on the website so people kind of know what's going on. So, does anybody have any questions? Yeah. Yeah, I would just like to say that, the issue of local versus international support, I think we have it's roughly 60-40, so more than half goes locally. And I want to push back a little bit on that, Alice. I'm not pushing back, but I just want to say, I think in the kingdom of God, political boundaries, location doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. And we need Well, I'm sure, you know, the parish has always given a lot, and so we're grateful for that, and we're grateful for your presence, and we're grateful if you invite a friend, and grateful if you have a good time, and just, we want you to, you know, we want you to keep, well, my goal is that you care about these organizations, not just, well, I'm going to give this money and I'm going to get a tax deduction, or, you know, like, we want you to love these people as much as we have grown to love them. And that's one of the reasons that we keep talking about these organizations, because, you know, we want this to be something done out of love and a generous spirit. And Epiphany has never disappointed on that score. So thank you for being here. Thank you for sitting through another spiel about Have a Heart, and tell more people. Oh.